I didn't even realize something was wrong until he grabbed my wrist. Not hard, not aggressive, just firm enough to stop me mid-step as I tried to walk past him into my own apartment. "Wait," he said. That was the first thing that hit me, how calm his voice was, even with the smell of smoke still clinging to everything. Not rushed like everyone else. Not stressed. Just steady. I turned, a little confused. "What?" Cole's eyes moved over me quickly, like he was scanning for something I couldn't see. I was still half-dressed, just sweatpants. No shirt, hair damp from the shower, and suddenly I became very aware of that. "There's still smoke coming from your unit," he said. I frowned. "There is." "Yeah." His grip loosened, but he didn't fully let go right away. Could be nothing. Could be something still burning slow. That tiny pause where his hand was still around my wrist felt longer than it should have. Then he let go. "Let me check," he added. I stepped aside, heart doing something weird in my chest. "Yeah, sure." He moved past me like he belonged there already, boots heavy against the floor, bringing that faint scent of smoke and something colder night air. Maybe. "I'm Noah, by the way," I said, closing the door behind us. He glanced back briefly. "Cole." Of course it was. He walked straight into the kitchen first, eyes sharp, focused. I leaned against the wall, watching him move around my apartment like it was second nature, opening cabinets, checking the stove, scanning corners. "You cooked tonight?" he asked. "No." "Anyone else in here earlier?" "Nope." He nodded slightly, then stepped closer to the sink, running the tap for a second before shutting it off again. "It's probably just residual," he said. "Smoke travels weird in these buildings." "Yeah," I muttered. "Feels like it." But he didn't leave. Instead, he moved deeper into the apartment past the kitchen, toward the living area. His presence filled the space in a way I wasn't used to. It was small to begin with, but now it felt tighter, more aware. "You live alone?" he asked again. "Yeah." He glanced at me, just for a second, like he was confirming something. "Good." That word landed strangely. "Good," I repeated. "Means less risk," he said quickly. But there was something in the way he said it that didn't feel entirely professional anymore. I swallowed, pushing off the wall. "Right?" He checked the windows next, cracking one open slightly. Cool night air slipped in, cutting through the lingering smoke. "Better," he murmured. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The apartment was quiet now. Too quiet. The chaos from outside felt miles away, like it hadn't just happened. And suddenly, it was just us. Cole stood near the window, back half turned to me, shoulders still tense like he hadn't fully switched off yet. I could see the faint rise and fall of his chest, the way his fingers flexed slightly at his sides. Then he turned and looked straight at me, not scanning this time, just looking. "You sure you're okay?" he asked. I nodded too quickly. "Yeah, I mean it's just smoke." "Not what I meant." My stomach tightened. "Oh." He took a step closer. It wasn't threatening. It wasn't inappropriate. But it wasn't distant either. "I've seen people brush things off when they're not actually fine," he said. "Adrenaline, shock, stuff like that." I let out a small breath, trying to steady myself. "I'm fine, really." Another pause. Closer now. "You don't look fine," he said quietly. Something about that, about how easily he saw through it, hit deeper than it should have. I let out a short, awkward laugh. "Well, you just walked into my place, grabbed my wrist, and told me something might be burning, so..." The corner of his mouth twitched. "Fair." And just like that, the tension shifted slightly. But not completely, because he still didn't leave. And I still didn't ask him to. I should have told him to leave. That's the part that still messes with my head when I think back to that night. Because nothing was technically wrong anymore. The fire was out, the building was safe, and Cole had already checked everything twice. There was no real reason for him to stay. But he did. And I let him. He was still standing near the window, letting the cold air move through the room, when I finally broke the silence. "So, that's it?" I asked. "Nothing else burning?" He glanced around once more, slower this time, like he was dragging it out. "No," he said. You're good. Another pause. Then you can go, right? I added, half joking, half not. His eyes flicked back to mine. Yeah, he said, but he didn't move. Instead, he walked past me toward the kitchen again, grabbing a glass from the counter like it was the most natural thing in the world. He filled it with water, took a slow sip, then leaned back slightly against the counter, like he lived there. I watched him, trying not to make it obvious. You always make yourself at home in strangers' apartments? I asked. That got a small reaction, a faint smirk. Barely there. Only when they don't kick me out, he said. I exhaled through my nose, shaking my head. Fair. But my chest felt tight again. Not in a bad way, just aware. He set the glass down, his fingers lingering on the edge of it for a second before letting go. You nervous? He asked suddenly. The question caught me off guard. What? No. Yeah. He tilted his head slightly, studying me again in that same quiet, focused way. You keep shifting your weight, he said. I froze for a second, then realized he was right. I shrugged, trying to play it off. You're still here. That did something. Not obvious. Not dramatic. But I saw it the way his jaw tightened just slightly, like that answer hit somewhere deeper than expected. Want me to leave? He asked. And there it was. Simple question. Easy answer. I should have said yes. Instead, I hesitated. And that hesitation said more than anything else could have. Cole pushed off the counter slowly, stepping closer again. Not rushed, not pushing, just closing the distance. You hesitated, he said quietly. I swallowed. Did I? Yeah. My pulse was loud now, way louder than it should have been for a situation like this. It's just been a weird night, I muttered. Yeah, he said. It has. He stopped a few steps away from me this time, close enough that I could feel the warmth coming off him, even with the cool air from the window. Neither of us spoke. There was this shift, something unspoken settling into the space between us. Different from before. He wasn't scanning the room anymore, wasn't checking for danger. He was just there, with me. You always this quiet? He asked. Only when I don't know what's going on, I said. And you don't. I shook my head slightly. No. Another pause. Then softer. Do you? That question lingered between us, because I had a feeling he did. Or at least, he wasn't as confused as I was. Cole exhaled slowly, running a hand through his hair like he was debating something internally. Then his eyes locked onto mine again. Yeah, he said. And something about the way he said it made my stomach drop in the best and worst way at the same time. Because whatever this was, it wasn't over. Not even close. I don't know what I expected him to do after saying that. Maybe laugh it off. Maybe step back, shake his head, turn it into a joke and walk out like none of this had just shifted. But Cole didn't do any of that. He stayed right there. Close enough now that I didn't have to guess what he was thinking. I could see it. Not clearly, not completely, but enough to know this wasn't just in my head. You're overthinking, he said. I let out a quiet breath. Probably, but not wrong. That made my chest tighten. I looked at him properly, then really looked this time. The details I'd been avoiding. The slight crease between his brows, like he was holding something back. The way his shoulders weren't as relaxed as before. Like this wasn't easy for him either. That's not helping, I admitted. A faint smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. Yeah, he said. I know. Another pause. But this one felt different. Less uncertain. More intentional. You do this a lot? I asked before I could stop myself. Do what? Stay, I said. After the job's done. His expression shifted slightly, not defensive, not offended. Just honest. No. Then why now? That question hung heavier than I expected. For a second, I thought he might not answer. Then he stepped just a little closer. Because you didn't want me to go, he said quietly. My throat went dry. That's not. You hesitated. He cut in, not harshly, just certain. I exhaled slowly, looking away for a second before meeting his eyes again. Yeah, I admitted. I did. Silence. But not awkward this time. Just real. Cole nodded once like that was enough. Then softer. Then don't pretend you didn't mean it. That hit harder than anything else he'd said. Because he was right. And I hated that he could read it so easily. I ran a hand through my hair, pacing a step back before stopping again. This is weird, I muttered. A little. You're literally here because of a fire. Yeah. And now you're just standing in my apartment. Also true. I let out a short laugh, shaking my head. Okay, when you say it like that, it sounds normal, he finished. No, I said. It sounds worse. That actually got a real reaction out of him, a quiet laugh, low and brief. And for a second, everything felt lighter. But only for a second. Because the moment faded quickly, and that same tension slipped right back into place. Unavoidable now. Cole looked at me again, more serious this time. If you want me to leave, I will, he said. There it was again. Clear. Direct. No pressure. But somehow more intense because of it. I hesitated. Again. And this time neither of us ignored it. His eyes flicked down briefly just for a second before coming back up to mine. You keep doing that, he said. Doing what? Not answering. I swallowed. Because I don't know what the right answer is. His gaze softened just slightly. Yeah, he said. You do. That quiet confidence in his voice, it did something to me I wasn't ready to deal with. Because part of me did know. I just wasn't sure what it meant if I said it out loud. So instead, I asked the only thing I could. What happens if I don't tell you to leave? Another pause. But this one felt like the point of no return. Cole held my gaze, steady, unreadable for a second. Then, I stay. Simple. But the way he said it made my heart slam against my ribs. Because suddenly, that didn't feel like a small decision anymore. I should have said something. Anything. A joke. A deflection. This is stupid, you should go. But instead, I just stood there, staring at him like I was waiting for him to decide for both of us. And maybe he already had. Because the moment I didn't answer, Cole moved. Not fast. Not sudden. Just one step closer. Close enough now that I could feel it, his presence. His heat. The way the space between us disappeared without either of us acknowledging it out loud. You're still not telling me to leave, he said quietly. My throat felt tight. I know. Why? I let out a slow breath, trying to steady myself, but it didn't really work. I don't know, I admitted. That was the truth. Or at least part of it. His eyes searched mine for a second, like he was deciding how far to push this. Then softer. You do. There it was again. That certainty. Like he could see right through me. I shook my head slightly, but it wasn't convincing. You're making this worse. How? By acting like you already know what I'm thinking. Maybe I do. That hit harder than it should have. I let out a quiet, almost nervous laugh. You don't. He didn't smile this time. Then tell me I'm wrong. Silence. Because I couldn't. And we both knew it. Cole's jaw tightened slightly, like that was all the confirmation he needed. His hand flexed at his side again, like he was holding himself back from doing something he hadn't decided on yet. You feel it too, he said. It wasn't a question. And that made it worse. I swallowed, my pulse loud in my ears. This is crazy. Yeah, he said. It is. But you're still here. Yeah. And I'm still letting you stay. Yeah. We both went quiet again. Because saying it out loud made it real in a way neither of us could ignore anymore. Cole shifted slightly, his gaze dropping for just a second, just enough for me to notice. Then back to my eyes. You want me to go, he said. It sounded like a statement, but something in it felt like a test. I opened my mouth and hesitated again. His exhale was slow, controlled. Or you don't, he added. That one landed. Because this time, it felt like the truth was right there, sitting between us, waiting. I just had to say it. But instead I asked, what do you want? And the second the words left my mouth, I felt the shift. Something deeper, more dangerous, because now it wasn't just about whether he stayed. Now it was about why. Cole didn't answer right away. His eyes held mine, steady, unreadable for a second. Then he stepped even closer. Close enough that if either of us moved even slightly, we'd be touching. "You really want to ask me that?" he said quietly. My breath caught. "I just did." Another pause. But this one felt heavier than all the others. Because there was no pretending anymore. No easy way out. Cole tilted his head slightly, studying me like he was giving me one last chance to back out. I didn't take it, and I think that's when he knew. His voice dropped just a little when he finally answered. "I want to stay," he said. Not casual. Not light. Something deeper under it. Something that made my chest tighten in a way I couldn't explain. "And?" I asked before I could stop myself. That word hung there. Risky. But I needed to hear it. Cole didn't look away. Didn't hesitate this time. "And I don't think you want me to stop." That did it. Because he was right. And the worst part? I wasn't even surprised anymore. I don't know what exactly broke first, my hesitation, or the space between us. Because after he said that, neither of us moved away. And that was the answer. My chest felt tight, like I couldn't take a full breath, but at the same time, I wasn't stepping back either. If anything, I leaned in without realizing it, just slightly. Enough. Cole noticed. Of course he did. His eyes dropped for a split second to my lips, then back up again. That tiny movement sent something sharp through my chest. "You're not stopping me," he said quietly. It wasn't pressure. It wasn't a question. Just truth. I swallowed. "You're not giving me much room to." That earned the faintest shift in his expression. "Move then," he said. I didn't. Another second passed. Then another. And that was all it took. Cole's hand came up slow, deliberate, and stopped just short of my side, like he was giving me one last chance to pull away. I didn't. His fingers brushed my waist, light at first, like he was testing if I'd flinch. I didn't. If anything, my breath hitched instead. That was enough for him. His grip firm slightly, not tight, just there. Grounding. Real. "You're still not stopping me," he said, softer now. "I know," I whispered. And that was it. That was the moment everything tipped. Because the second I said that, he closed the rest of the distance. It wasn't rushed. Wasn't aggressive. Just direct. His other hand came up to my jaw, thumb brushing lightly along it, tilting my head just enough. And then his lips were on mine. For a second, my brain just stopped. Everything went quiet except for the way my heart slammed against my ribs. It wasn't messy. It wasn't desperate. It was controlled. But intense in a way I wasn't ready for. Like he knew exactly what he was doing and was holding back just enough to see how I'd react. I should have pulled away. I didn't. Instead, I leaned into it. And the second I did, something in him shifted. His grip tightened slightly, not rough, just more certain. Like that was all the confirmation he needed. The kiss deepened. Not too far. Just enough to make it impossible to pretend this was accidental. My hand came up before I could think about it, gripping lightly at his shirt, like I needed something to steady myself. That got a reaction. A quiet exhale against my lips. And suddenly, it wasn't just him leading anymore. We stayed like that for a few seconds, maybe longer, I couldn't tell. Time felt off. Then he pulled back slightly. Not far. Just enough to look at me. Really look this time. "You okay?" he asked. That question right then, after that, should have broken the tension. But it didn't. If anything, it made it worse. Because now it felt real. And I had to answer. I nodded, still a little breathless. "Yeah." His eyes searched mine for a second longer, like he was making sure. Then quieter. "Still want me to leave?" That question again. But now it meant something completely different. I shook my head. "No." And the second I said it, I knew. There was no going back to how things were before he knocked on my door. I didn't expect things to slow down after that. But they did. Not in a bad way. Just quieter. Cole didn't rush back in like before. He stayed close, his hand still at my side, his other resting lightly near my jaw, but he wasn't pushing anything further. Like he was waiting, letting me decide if that moment meant something, or if it was just a mistake. "You sure?" he asked again, voice lower now. I nodded, still catching my breath. "Yeah." He held my gaze for another second, searching, making sure. Then he stepped back. Just slightly. And that small bit of space between us suddenly felt huge. I exhaled, running a hand through my hair, trying to steady myself. "Okay," I said quietly, more to myself than to him. Cole watched me, arms now resting loosely at his sides. But there was still that tension in him, like he hadn't fully let go of whatever just happened. "Okay?" he repeated. I let out a small, awkward breath. "I just didn't expect that." "Yeah," he said. "Me neither." Silence settled again. But this time it wasn't charged in the same way. It was heavier, more real. I leaned back against the wall, needing something solid behind me. "You do this?" I asked. "With random people after calls?" There was a slight edge in my voice, even if I didn't mean it. Cole caught it. "No," he said immediately. I looked up at him. "Then why me?" That question sat between us, heavier than anything before. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he glanced around the apartment, like he was grounding himself again, resetting. Then his eyes came back to me. "You didn't feel random," he said. Simple, but honest in a way that made my chest tighten again. I frowned slightly. "You talked to me for like 2 minutes. Sometimes that's enough." I shook my head, half smiling, half confused. "That doesn't make sense." "It doesn't have to." Another pause. Then I pushed off the wall, stepping a little closer again, careful this time, more aware. "So what now?" I asked, because that was the part no one talks about. Not the moment itself. What comes after. Cole studied me for a second, like he was weighing the same thing. "Now," he started, then stopped. For the first time, he didn't sound completely sure. And weirdly, that made me relax a little, because it meant I wasn't the only one figuring this out in real time. "You tell me," he said finally. I let out a quiet breath. Of course he'd put it back on me. I glanced toward the open window, the faint noise of the city drifting in, grounding everything just a little. Then back at him. "We don't pretend that didn't just happen," I said. "No. And you're still technically on duty." That made the corner of his mouth lift slightly. "Technically." I gave him a look. "Cole, relax," he said. But there was a hint of something else there, something almost amused. "Truck's wrapping up. I've got a few minutes." "A few minutes," I repeated. "Yeah." That word lingered, because suddenly, that felt important. Limited. Like whatever this was, it had a clock on it. And for some reason, that made everything feel more intense. I stepped a little closer again. Not as hesitant this time. "Then don't waste them," I said quietly. His expression shifted. Just slightly. But enough. Because now it wasn't just something that happened. Now it was something we were choosing. The second I said it, something shifted in Cole's expression. Not just desire this time. Focus. Like he was suddenly very aware of the line we were standing on. He didn't move right away. Instead, he studied me, really studied me, like he was making sure I meant it, not just reacting to the moment. "You're thinking about this," he said quietly. "Yeah," I admitted. "Good." That surprised me. "Good. Means you're not just going along with it." I let out a small breath, glancing down for a second before looking back up at him. "I don't usually do whatever this is." "Me neither." There was something about how quickly he said that, no hesitation, no smirk, that made me believe him. And somehow, that made this feel heavier, more real. Outside, I could hear distant voices, his crew probably. The faint slam of a truck door. The world we'd stepped out of was still there, waiting. He heard it too. His jaw tightened slightly, like reality was catching up with him. "I don't have long," he said. That hit harder than I expected. "Yeah," I said, quieter now. The energy shifted again, not gone, just different, less impulsive, more grounded. Cole stepped back a little, running a hand over the back of his neck. This, he started, then paused. This isn't something I do and then just walk away from like nothing happened. I blinked, caught off guard. I didn't think you would. Good. Another pause. Then he nodded toward the door slightly. I should go finish up. There it was. The moment ending. But it didn't feel like it was over. Not really. I crossed my arms loosely, trying to ignore the way my chest felt tight again. So that's it? I asked. He looked at me, and this time there was no hesitation at all. No. That one word settled something in me. Then what? I asked. Cole reached into his pocket, pulling out his phone. He hesitated for half a second, like even this part mattered, then held it out to me. Give me your number. Simple. Direct. No games. I took it, typed it in, handed it back. Our fingers brushed for just a second, nothing dramatic, but enough to remind me that everything that just happened was real. He glanced at the screen, then back at me. I'll call you, he said. Not maybe. Not if. I nodded. Okay. Another beat. Neither of us moved. Then finally he turned toward the door, hand resting on the handle. But before he opened it, he paused. Looked back at me one more time. That hesitation? He said. Yeah. A faint, almost knowing look crossed his face. Next time. Don't fight it so much. My stomach flipped. Next time. I repeated. He opened the door slightly, cool air slipping in from the hallway. Then, without looking away. Yeah. And just like that, he was gone, leaving me standing there in the quiet, the faint smell of smoke still in the air, and the very real feeling that this wasn't over. Not even close. I didn't sleep that night. Not even close. I tried laying there, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything over and over like my brain refused to let it go. The alarm, the smoke, the way he showed up like it was just another call. And then the way he stayed. The way he looked at me. The way I didn't stop him. I turned onto my side, exhaling slowly, dragging a hand over my face. Next time. His voice echoed in my head like it hadn't been hours since he said it. That wasn't something you say if it's just a one-time thing. That wasn't something you say if you're planning to forget. And the worst part? I didn't want him to. Morning came too fast. I barely got any real sleep, but my body gave up trying at some point. I woke up to sunlight cutting through the blinds and the faint smell of smoke still lingering in the apartment. Felt different in the daylight. Less intense. More real. Like now I had to actually deal with it instead of just feeling it. I got up, moved through my usual routine slower than normal. Like my mind was somewhere else entirely. Coffee didn't help. Shower didn't help. Nothing really did. Because every time I stopped moving, my brain went right back to him. Cole. I didn't even know anything about him. Not really. Just his name. The way he looked at me. The way he didn't hesitate. And somehow, that was enough to get under my skin. My phone buzzed on the counter. I froze. For a second, I just stared at it. Then I picked it up. Unknown number. My chest tightened immediately. I opened it. Cole, you awake? Simple. Of course it was. I stared at the message longer than I should have, like answering it meant something bigger than just texting back. Then, me? Yeah. The reply came almost instantly. Cole, good. That was it. Just one word. And somehow it made my pulse spike all over again. I leaned back against the counter, exhaling slowly. What was I even supposed to say to that? Before I could figure it out, another message came in. Cole, I'm off shift now. Okay. That meant something. Definitely meant something. My fingers hovered over the screen for a second before I typed back. Me. End. 3 dots appeared immediately. Disappeared. Came back again. Like even he was thinking about how to say it. Then, Cole, I meant what I said. My stomach tightened. No explanation. No pretending. Just that. I swallowed, staring at the screen. Me? About what? I already knew. I just needed him to say it. A few seconds passed this time. Then, Cole, about there being a next time. There it was. Clear. Direct. No room to misunderstand. I let out a slow breath, my grip tightening slightly on the phone. Because now it wasn't just about what happened last night. Now it was about what we were going to do with it. I typed, deleted, typed again. Then finally, me, you always this straightforward? His reply came fast. Cole, only when I know what I want. That hit harder than anything else. Because there was no hesitation in it. None. And for a second, I just stood there, staring at the screen, feeling that same pull all over again. Stronger now, because this time, I wasn't caught off guard. This time I had to choose it.